Welcome everybody to JAVAD True Stories. I'm here with Monte King from Nampa, Idaho. Monte's surveyed all across the country, licensed in 17 states, and licensed in two. Has worked in 17 different states with the BLM, and has contributed a lot to our profession, teaching some classes at conferences and seminars and stuff like that. So we're glad to have you today, Monte, and jump right in and tell us about yourself and maybe a few stories.
All right. Well, like you said, my name is Monte King. I'm with the Bureau of Land Management Cadastral Survey, and I've been with them since pretty much right out of high school. I do not have a degree. I'm the homegrown type. And like Adam said, I'm licensed in two states, Alabama in 2008, Idaho in 2022. And I have worked in quite a few states, and I'm going to share my screen. And this is a map of all the states I have worked in.
Wow.
And what's that?
All the blue states, yeah.
Yep,
Cool.
yep, exactly. And so as you can see, it's mostly in eastern states. That's where I kind of got my start. I kind of started in South Dakota first season as a technician. Then I moved out to eastern states and worked my way up to surveyor. And as you can see, most of the states are in eastern states. And the next picture I'm going to show is actually the state jurisdictions for BLM. Give you an idea. So over here, eastern states covers 31 states. So I've worked in there. South Dakota is covered by Montana. And I've worked in Idaho, which is covered by Idaho. I snuck down to Nevada with a field crew and helped set some monuments, so I get to claim Nevada.
Yeah.
But, and then let's see, currently I'm the field section supervisor in Idaho. And so that's kind of my general background. So we'll kind of jump into some projects I've kind of done, and we'll start with Google Earth.
Looking at the map of the states you've worked in pretty much every different type of terrain or vegetation that we have to offer here in the US. So that's cool.
Yep. From the scary stuff in Idaho where you're looking at your handheld 500 feet horizontal and you're looking at 1,500, 2,000 vertical.
Wow.
All the way swamps of Florida, swamps of Minnesota, in the Northeast, urban environments. A lot in DC area, Park Service stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of different places. So the cool thing about Hanscom Air Force Base is one of the common boundaries right along here is where Paul Revere was captured. And so that was kind of cool history right there. So
yeah. Well, and as surveyors, we all have an interest in history. You know, we look back at all these deeds and stuff. And when you work on something that Paul Revere is,
yeah,
so well known, and that's always cool. Yeah, awesome.
Here's a picture of that area. They call it the Great Road, and it's where Paul Revere was captured. Of course, it was a perfect foggy day, so the picture came out great. But yeah, that's a really cool area there. Another part I got to do on Hanscom. See if I can find the right picture. Part of the boundary was controlled by the center line of runways. And so, of course, there was a PK nail in the center line. Had to work with maintenance. They were in contact with the tower. So when a plane was landing, taking off, we had to get out of the way. Found that one pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then one more picture from Hanscom is this one right here, where somebody carved a cool cat face in a beech tree. So I'm standing there at the GPS unit. That's a chain link fence for the Air Force Base. But yeah, it's kind of a cool little carving. I don't know who did it, some kid probably, but
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Beech trees are magnificent for carvings.
yeah.
I've come across some names, John and Sue, with a heart. So that's cool. Very cool. Beech trees.
And it's amazing where you find them, just out in the middle of the woods, and yeah, you'll run across one that somebody was carving on. So
yeah, they make a good media for that. The bark is just perfect for that, and it lasts forever. So
exactly, yeah, very good bearing trees.
yeah. Sweet.
Then now we'll just jump out to Martha's Vineyard. I did a survey out there for the Wampanoag tribe, and it was this Lobsterville Beach area. And it was interesting for me because it was a 50-foot offset from mean high tide. So I had to get into the benchmark for the high tide and the 18, I think it's 18 or 19-year epic, how they report the elevation. So that was an interesting one. And of course, it depends on what office you're working on for the equipment that we use. But on this one, Eastern States uses JAVAD, and it was great. I mean, it was easy to use, kind of just smooth. So, but that's another area that was really cool. Of course, I had to take a ferry.
Yeah, that's always cool when you have to take a ferry to get to your job site.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was told on Martha's Vineyard, the value of 1 acre inland is over $1 million, and that's just bare land. So yeah, every inch counts out there. So
yeah, you make sure you get your measurements right.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Then one of my favorites is in Minnesota, doing it. It's a typical P.L.S section subdivision. But what we ended up finding is an actual 1871 original post. So what I was actually surveying was up in section 15, but I needed to run control down here to this quarter corner. And the picture I can show you, this is part of my presentation I did for the Idaho Society.
Yeah.
And this is the wood post that we actually found out in the middle of the swamp. In 1870, it was a Tamarack Swamp, but now it's just canary grass and cattails. These extra little posts here you see are from, I'm guessing, a county surveyor in 1899 found this corner and used it for a highway alignment. So I'm thinking he just set flag posts there.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah, 1870.
Yep.
You're finding that's wild.
And this is a Tamarack bearing tree. You can see the original blaze here. And of course, it's pretty well preserved. The scribing's kind of hard to see or tough to see if you even can, but you can definitely see the blaze. And that's a cool part about the upper Great Lakes states. If the wood is in a swamp, the water's cold enough, it'll preserve it. Yeah. So I actually have this wood post right here is that one I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I lacquered it up, of course, to preserve it. The county surveyor, there's a brass tack right here, the face of it. And I think the county surveyor put it there when he was there, just to indicate that he'd found it and used it. So,
yeah.
But this works great for teaching.
Yeah, it does. Because that's what you're looking for. Stuff that might be well over 100 years old. And sometimes you can miss them if you don't really take the time to really look and dig and poke around but it's the best feeling when you find something like that.
It is. I have more of them, of course. I don't want to go through them now, but yeah, that presentation, there's a couple more. This is another one. It's just a point of it. The rest rotted off above water. And then this one we found leaning in the swamp like that, and you can see that it's sharpened. That was a good one. It was just out in the middle of a swamp. Used proportioning to find it. So,
and how close? What was your look radius?
For this one, we were about 25 lengths, so about 17 feet.
Yeah.
So, but we had good corners, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. 17 feet can be a really large area when you're looking for something like that in a swamp.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 That's the fun stuff, though. Yeah. And then let's see, I got one in Florida. This was a pretty cool one. My only project I got to do in Florida happens to be New Smyrna Beach, which is the point just south of Daytona. So part of the story here is we were working in North Carolina. My crew from Minnesota and I were in North Carolina. We finished up that project and we started heading down to this one. But when we headed out, Daytona 500 was going on. couldn't find a hotel anywhere near Daytona, New Smyrna. So on our way, we stayed up in St. Augustine for 2 nights, I think, till a hotel opened up. We ended up having to stay in Titusville, which is about 30 miles to the south, for about a week. Then we got moved out of that hotel over to Orlando for about a week. And then we ended up in Jacksonville Beach for a week. Reason being is right after Daytona 500 was bike week in Daytona and then spring break.
Yeah.
So of
Yeah.
course, we were running conventional then, and my instrument man on beaches, I found real quick, you got to really keep your eye on your instrument man because they get pretty distracted pretty quick. So
Yeah. But down there in Daytona too, they let them drive on the beach. So I imagine you got to watch out for traffic as well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had to actually, we were able to drive on the beach and come up and park up in here so that we were kind of doing this tract here. When I turn on this layer, this is the blue is actually what I ended up surveying. So we had to cut out a NASA shuttle monitoring station here. And then this is a Coast Guard station. The rest of it was going to the county for a park, and now it's called Smyrna Dunes Park. This boundary here, though, was digitized from aerial imagery in 1963, I want to say, because of the fact that they did so much dredging in this area. They were dumping all the spoils up here, so it was considered an avulsive act. So we fixed the boundary at the digitized line in 1963. The rest was considered just avulsive, so still state owned technically. But that was a good one. So
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So where are you doing most of your work now? Are you mostly staying in Idaho, or are you still traveling all around wherever needed, wherever they need you to go?
I am in Idaho now. I work specifically for the Idaho State Office, and so I just supervise crews in Idaho itself. A few years ago, I was stationed up on the Nez Perce Reservation. I worked about 3 years up there. That's where this is, and this is that really bad terrain where it's 500 feet horizontal, and we called it the meat grinder. So
Yeah. How do
yeah,
how do you get around in most of that? Is it by foot, or y'all going in on pack horses and mules, or four wheelers,
But
trucks?
well, we'll use four-wheelers or UTVs now. We don't use four-wheelers anymore, but UTVs as far as we can get, and then it's on foot. I really did consider horses in a lot of these places because, yeah, it's just really heavy terrain. So, yeah, it's a lot of cliffs, a lot of just vertical drops and stuff like that. So, it takes some planning to get places. But
Very,
yeah, it's
very.
beautiful country. Then, of course, I've worked on the Cherokee Reservation, North Carolina, more steep terrain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm located in North Carolina, and anytime I have to go up to the mountains to work, it's tough. It's really, really tough. So this out here, I just, I could imagine maybe even a helicopter in some places would be useful.
Yeah, yeah. They use them in Alaska. Cadastral uses helicopters a lot in Alaska for just that reason, access. So down in the lower 48, I've never been on a helicopter ride for it. So, but yeah, I could see a lot of places. There was times struggling up those hillsides going, man, I wish I had a jetpack or a helicopter.
Yeah. Well, do you have any stories where you got stuck or stranded, or we're surveyors, but we still get lost. So I wouldn't want you to embarrass yourself too much, on being a surveyor and getting lost, but it's happened to me too.
There's been several times where, it's just one of those days you kind of unload the UTV, you go back a few miles, get the UTV really stuck, or it breaks down, and then it's just walking time just to get out. So, yeah, there's been times I've left a UTV in the woods overnight to come back the next day, struggled trying to get it out, and just had to bring more tools in. So, yeah, that's always, especially in Minnesota, those swamps. You always want to take that chance, but boy, sometimes it's not worth it.
Well, and like big areas and rough terrain like that, you can get stuck out in some really bad weather as well, and
Oh yeah.
not get back to the truck and have to, you know, hunker down to make it through.
Yeah, I've never had to stay the night, but I've definitely had to wait out storms and yeah, just hunker down and wait it out. And then sometimes the storm comes through and getting out becomes pretty much walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roads get so slimy and yeah, yeah. And
Cool.
then
Well, go
one thing
ahead.
I'd like to bring up is BLM, we are working on a STEM activities for cadastral survey. So I'm sharing the website for BLM, and these activities, classroom activities, are kind of what they're going to be like. So I'm just going to pick one. Let's see. Where should the trail go? Just to give a demonstration. And these should be published in the next few months, I'm hoping. So I'll be able to share a link to them and everything. But it's kind of for classroom use. So a teacher can pick these up and kind of create a lesson out of whatever the subject is. And of course, cadastral survey has a couple activities based on surveying, kind of teaches them the history and kind of how it's done, measuring the land type of concept. So that's one of our main outreaches is this right here. And I was a big part of it. Several of us in cadastral survey put a lot of effort into this. So it's going to be pretty cool, and I'll definitely share it with everyone when it does come out. And another thing we like to try to do, I have a picture here. It's kind of, we always receive inquiries and from the public. One thing that I don't see going on really much anymore are these retracement camps. And the one I was part of, it was in Alabama. And what it was is the school in Alabama, the students would get credit for going out to this retracement camp. It'd be 3 days classroom and 1 day out in the field. And so we as BLM would do the training in classroom, then we'd break up into crews that last day and have a BLMer with them and kind of go out to corners and show them how to find corners and prove corners as far as looking for BT evidence and everything. It doesn't really happen anymore, but it's a great training tool, particularly for students. They really enjoyed it. They also let private surveyors pay a fee and come out, and then they'd get the continuing education credits for it. So it's
And
kind of a
that's
great
something.
deal.
It is. It's needed, and I'm glad that the BLM is reaching out to the younger generation. Everybody knows there's a shortage and on surveyors, and the average age of a surveyor is getting up there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and you just have to turn kids onto it and let them know, understand that you can make a living playing outside in the woods, and you know that's what I grew up doing, and that's why
Yep.
I think I picked this profession. And most surveyors I talk to, it's the same way. We love the outside, and there you can make a really good living working outside.
Yep. Yep. Cadastral guys always like to say, I can't believe they pay me for this. There are the days they should pay you more, but man, a lot of the days, the country you get to see working outside, that was kind of my hook, line, and sinker was I get paid to work outside.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Well, that's great, Monty. I really appreciate your time and showing us these projects and telling us some of your stories. I want to talk to as many surveyors as I can and get these put out there for everybody, because it's just so interesting to me.
Yep.
Um, and we appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us.
Yeah, definitely. And anytime a society is interested in BLM, doing some sort of presentation, just get in touch with your local BLM office. For you guys, it'd be Eastern states, but yeah, it's any state society can contact their BLM office, and if they want some sort of presentation, we do all that outreach. So
That's good to know. Yep. Um, I guess, do y'all do anything with the local, like, colleges that have surveying curriculum and stuff, as far as recruiting employees? I don't know if you want to talk about that for a minute, how you go about recruiting.
Yeah, typically we try to get involved in the colleges if we can. And I know here in Idaho, we actually have a BLM has a recruiter, so he's starting to work some of those kind of angles. One big thing we like to do is we hire what we call pathways students. And so if a kid's in college, we hire him, he comes and works summers and then goes back to school for the winter, comes back and works summers. At the end of that, we kind of put him in a permanent position. So it's a way to work yourself into a permanent position through school. And so you're getting your school education and you're getting the hands-on training during the summer with us. So that's one of our biggest pushes lately. And here in Idaho, we have 2 current pathway students on board now. So
Very good. Very good. One thing I've noticed over the past couple years dealing with some of the colleges that offer surveying curriculum is the number of students in the program has, risen. It's doubled in some places. Um, it's I would like to see more numbers, but it's growing instead of declining like it was several years ago.
yep, that's good. Good deal.
Yeah. Very good. I appreciate it, Monty, and it's good to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. It's always fun to get out and let people know cadastral survey exists.
Sounds good. You stay safe, Monty. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. You too.